Hi everyone, this is Miss Rehs, and today I'm going to book talk the book People Kill People by Ellen Hopkins. Now there are a couple of different reasons why I chose to read this book. So the first one is the author herself. When I was in 7th grade, my reading teacher that year was really trying to get her students to focus on fostering this love of independent reading. And this is something that I struggled with. And I didn't struggle with it because I disliked reading, because I didn't. I enjoyed reading. But I didn't know what I liked to read. And that was the big problem. So I would pick up like fantasy books and science fiction books, and I would try to read them, and I would lose interest so fast because I knew that the events that were happening in that book would likely never happen. And so because of that, I felt like I couldn't relate to the story. So one day I ended up picking up the book Crank by Ellen Hopkins, and it completely changed reading for me. The story is about a girl who goes to live with her father for the summer, and during that time, she finds out that her father has a drug problem, and then she ends up forming her own drug addiction. Now, I have never had a drug addiction, and I've also never known someone personally who has had a drug addiction, but there were so many other parts of the main character that I really felt like I could relate to. Her parents were split up. My parents split up when I was in kindergarten. She was at a time in her life where she was dealing with peer pressure pretty heavily, and that was kind of the start of when I was really starting to see peer pressure. So while there was this really big part of the book that I couldn't relate to, there were these other smaller parts of the book that I could relate to. Not only that, I know that there are people who suffer with drug addiction every single day. So while that character and that story are made up, it still kept my attention because I knew it was something that so many people struggle with every single day. Now, the second reason I chose this book is because of the content. If you look at the front cover of the book, you can see that there is a picture being created through Connect the Dots, and while the picture hasn't been fully created, you can very clearly tell that this is a handgun. So I have been very outspoken the last couple of years about violence in schools. School as a whole is so important to me because it's my whole entire life. I have been saying I've wanted to be a teacher since I was in kindergarten. I love my job. I wake up every single day so excited to do the job that I love so much because there's just something about when you see your students really learn something and make those connections that's just so special. And so the fact that there are people who exist in the world who want to go into schools, which are supposed to be a safe place, and cause harm to innocent people, innocent children, it's just something that is so fundamentally wrong, and something needs to happen in order to change this. And so that's why this book really caught my attention. Now, while it doesn't focus primarily on gun violence in schools, it holistically talks about gun violence. And the other thing that Ellen Hopkins does in this book that is interesting and at the same time absolutely terrifying is she makes the gun almost a character in the book. Now, it doesn't have its own dialogue with the other characters, and it doesn't sprout arms and legs and go running down the street. But there are these certain parts in the books where she changes the text, and it's almost as if the gun is having these own thoughts, and they're these powerful, these overwhelming thoughts. They're these thoughts of some type of being that wants to take control of another being, and it's terrifying. That's the only way to describe it, is that it's completely terrifying. But it really changed the way that I view guns as a whole, and that in turn really furthered my strong feelings about violence in schools. So this is an excellent, excellent book. It talks about the tough topics that we need to be exposed to and that we need to have discussions about. And it does so in such a beautiful, interesting way. So, People Kill People by Ellen Hopkins. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Go find it so you can read it.